Hi, my name is James and I'm from Nexus Youth and Family Services, part of our therapy department. And we'll be talking today about getting out of thinking traps. So, one thing we want to talk about is kind of the pattern of thinking traps. Um, it's very easy to fall into negative thinking patterns and spend time kind of dwelling on those, or maybe worrying about maybe future thoughts, future negative thoughts in particular. It's really kind of how we're wired, it's how our brain works. If you notice that our brains are more inclined to negative news instead of positive news, or maybe praise is less important to our brains than maybe negative comments. For example, we can get maybe 10 praises and receive one criticism, and we'll probably spend the most of our time and energy thinking about that one negative comment. Um, in seasons and times of difficulty, negative thinking patterns can be very, very common. And so today, as we talk about negative thinking traps, we'll be talking about patterns, how to get out of that pattern, and how to reshape our kind of the way we think. So here's some common, as we call cognitive distortions or common negative thinking patterns or traps. The first one is overgeneralization. So making a broad statement based on one situation or piece of evidence. So it's just taking maybe one small piece of evidence from maybe the past or current present time and then making a generalization. Another one that I want to talk about is jumping to conclusion. So this is judging or deciding something without all the facts. Maybe we're rushing to a conclusion based upon past experiences. Maybe we're making a quick judgment because we believe negatively about either ourselves or about someone or a situation. And the last one I really want to talk about is should statements. This is making yourself feel guilty about pointing out what you should or shouldn't be doing, feeling, or thinking. I would even go as far to say this is making someone else maybe feel guilty by just pointing out maybe what they should do. Like, you should do this, you should. This can be very, very negative. This can put us into a negative, what you potentially could do instead of what actually is or what you can actually do about it. It can be very, very trapping in an endless cycle. Those are kind of three that I really like to wanted to highlight, but you can read kind of the common cognitive distortions, or you can find them online as well. So how do we want to kind of battle against or kind of get out of that negative thinking pattern? The first thing we want to do is we want to identify it, and then we want to reframe. We want to reframe maybe the phrase that is in our head. So for example, we give example is I can't do anything right. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you made a few mistakes, whether it's at work, in your family, in another social situation, whatever it may be. And so you draw the conclusion that I can't do anything right. I just can't do anything right. So what we're going to do is we're identify that thinking pattern, and then we're going to reframe it. Instead of saying I can't do anything right, we're gonna say a positive reality-based truth that will get us out of a thinking pattern, but positive reality-based truth. For what does this look like? It's saying I messed up, so we admit to the mistake, but then also say, and nobody's perfect. Or maybe I messed up and I'm going to learn from it next time. So we're still admitting to the mistake. We're still saying, hey, we made a mistake, but reframing it, we're rephrasing it almost. We're identifying the negative thinking pattern, and we're going to re-say, I messed up and I'm going to do something, or and I'm going to learn something, or and um, I'm not perfect and nobody is. So even though I messed up, nobody's perfect. I'm going to learn from this. We're going to reframe our thinking pattern. It's very important that we do that. We identify it, then we reframe it, because we can just get trapped in an endless cycle of I can't do anything right. So then when you make a mistake, you start believing that, oh yeah, I can't do anything right. And then it's in this cycle, if you will. Whereas we say, hey, I messed up, I made a mistake, own it, and then we're going to figure out how to do something about it. So this is kind of going back to that second part. So we're going to reframe, and then we're going to prove ourselves wrong. So the things that we do will impact how we feel, right? For example, I can't do anything right. We make a mistake. You believe that we can't do any, you can't do anything right. So we make a mistake, and then you believe again that you can't do anything right. Then you make a mistake, and you can't believe. So it's this endless cycle. But what we need to do is combat our negative thoughts. First, we identify, then we reframe, then we prove ourselves wrong by reality-based thinking patterns. For instance, if you're telling yourself you aren't smart because you don't understand how the stock market or maybe homework, or maybe just a situation that you're going through doesn't work, you can either go, hey, I don't know. So admit it, reframe it. It's not that I'm not smart. It's just I haven't learned about it just yet. I haven't spent enough time studying and learning about it. Reality-based truth, identifying it, reframing it, and then doing something about it, kind of proving ourselves wrong. And so that way, when we do something about it, we can impact how we feel about our negative thoughts. So countering negative thoughts with positive ones. Again, we want positive reality-based truths. So when you catch your inner dialogue, meaning you make yourself to say something nice to balance it out. Again, we want positive reality-based truth. This may feel cheesy, and it'll feel awkward, but it's okay. It's good. It's getting us out of that negative thinking pattern. We have to start somewhere. So remember, thoughts are not facts. Your thoughts and feelings are valid, but they aren't always reality. You might feel ugly, but that doesn't mean you are ugly. You may not feel smart, but that doesn't mean you aren't smart. It just means maybe, hey, I need to spend more time studying this material, maybe learning about material. Maybe I need to find a mentor. So again, oftentimes we can be our own worst enemies. Other people are seeing us in a much nicer, maybe lighter than maybe how we even see ourselves. So a couple fast facts. Half of people who took a depression screening in 2020 felt that they were a failure or had let themselves or their families down nearly every day. So what does this mean? It is normal. This is a normal way that our brains kind of get trapped into, that a lot of us are working through. Another study found that 85% of what we worry about almost never happens at all. And in the 15% of times where worries can come true, 79% of those people handled difficulty better than expected or learned a valuable lesson from the experience. It's very important. This is a normal way of thinking. Of the people who took an anxiety screen in 2020, 64% felt afraid as if something awful might happen at least half of the time or nearly every day. So we're going to identify, we're going to reframe, and then we're going to prove ourselves wrong. We're going to identify, we're going to reframe, and then we're going to prove ourselves wrong. Here's some resources that we have used. So some podcasts that we can start listening to and applying to our daily life. Supportive and positive psychology.com are great research-based resources that'll help with kind of coping with anxiety and depression and solving that mental health or kind of mental traps that we can get into. Amador Behavioral Health is a great resource as well. And so is Nexus Youth and Family Services, which is a great source of maybe resources, or we also have different departments that supply great services. So here's another tool that you can use as well. It's where we went, where I discussed earlier from the fast facts. There's some great resources on this test available that can really just identify some patterns or maybe some thought challenging that is needed. They're great resources. Thank you again for listening. You can like or subscribe and share. It's very, very meaningful to us when we see that people share, and this is useful and helpful for you. You can find us at Nexus Youth and Family Services at 601 Court Street, Suite 210 in Jackson, California, or you can give us a call at 209-257-1980. Thank you so much.